Welcome to April Unmuted. I'm so glad you pressed play today. If you've been missing an ex-best friend, but you also know the friendship wasn't the same anymore, this episode is for you. Also, quick shout out to a listener who messaged me about missing her ex-best friend. You're not alone, and thank you for trusting me with this topic, because nobody really talks about the grief that comes with growth, the confusion, the guilt, the way you can love someone and still need distance. Today, we're talking about friendships, not surface level advice, but the unmuted version of what happens when you start changing and the people closest to you don't change with you. And I want you to hear me when I say this. You're not wrong for growing, and you're not evil for noticing who stopped showing up. Here's something I had to accept, even though it hurt. Every major transformation in my life came with a friendship shift. When I got promoted at work, someone I talked to every day just drifted. We went from constant connection to barely speaking at all. And I didn't even notice how one-sided it was until I stopped reaching first. Another time, during my weight loss journey, I showed up fully for a friend during one of the hardest seasons of her life. I was there, no questions, no conditions. Then when I went through my own loss, the support was different. It felt measured, like my grief had rules. And when I stepped back to protect myself, I was told I was a bad friend over small things that didn't make sense. That's when I learned something important. A real friend does not weaponize your vulnerability. They don't throw your pain back at you when you stop performing for them. And more recently, I experienced a friendship that felt close, fast. We did everything together. Constant time, constant access. But when I started building a romantic relationship, it felt like I was being pulled in two different directions. I was made to feel guilty for choosing my life, for growing, for prioritizing love. And instead of conversation, I received a list. Everything I did wrong, everything I failed at. That was my sign. Because if a friendship gives you anxiety instead of peace, that's not closeness, that's pressure. And I want you to hear this. These moments taught me that growth doesn't expose fake friends. It exposes misalignment. Sometimes misalignment doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like guilt. And sometimes it looks like control. Okay, this is the part nobody really prepares you for. You can miss someone and still know the friendship wasn't healthy anymore. Missing them doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means there was real history there. Shared seasons, versions of you that mattered at the time. And sometimes you don't miss them. You miss who you were before everything got complicated. Before you had to explain yourself, before you had to manage their emotions, before growth made things uncomfortable. And sometimes, if we're being honest, you miss the access. The way they had unlimited access to you, your time, your energy, your availability. That can feel like love, but access without care is not intimacy. And here's the unmuted truth. If you feel relief and grief at the same time, that's not confusion. That's clarity arriving slowly. Grief means something mattered. Relief means something was costing you. You're allowed to honor both without going back. Here's the unmuted truth. Healthy friendships have receipts. Not perfection, not constant access, but effort, care, presence. If you're always the one checking in, always explaining your growth, always adjusting so they feel comfortable, that's not mutual. That's maintenance. And maintenance drains you. A healthy friendship doesn't make you beg to be understood. It doesn't punish you for evolving. It doesn't disappear when your life expands. It can be honest. it can have tension, but it should still feel safe. If the friendship only works when you're smaller, quieter, and available, that's not love. That's control dressed up as closeness. Let's get clear. Here are 3 signs the friendship is no longer mutual. 1, they support you in words but not in action. They say, I'm happy for you, but when it's time to show up, they don't. And you notice a pattern. If you don't call, you don't hear from them. If you don't reach, there is no relationship. 2, your growth makes them distant or defensive. Not curious, not proud, just different. You start feeling like good news is something you have to soften, like you have to shrink your joy so they don't get weird. 3, they punish you for having boundaries. They don't just feel their feelings, they make you pay for them. So instead of a conversation, you get guilt. You get scorekeeping. You get a list of everything you did wrong. And I want to say this plainly. A real friend does not keep you close by making you feel small. A real friend does not make you anxious for choosing your life. A real friend does not turn closeness into pressure. If you feel relief and dread in the same friendship, that's not peace. That's your body begging you to tell the truth. So here's how I navigate friendship shifts now. And I keep it simple. First, I check the receipts. Not the memories, not how close we used to be. I look at who shows up, who checks in, who follows through without being reminded. Second, I tell the truth once. Not 10 conversations, not paragraphs, just one clear sentence. I care about you, but I don't feel like we're mutual anymore. Then I stop talking. Third, I watch what they do next. Not what they promise, not how emotional the conversation gets. I watch the behavior, okay? Fourth, I set the boundary, I keep breaking. If I'm always the one reaching, I stop reaching. If I'm always the one explaining myself, I stop explaining. And this part took me the longest to learn. I don't defend myself anymore. I don't argue my character. I don't try to convince someone to see me differently. Because peace is a clue. And anxiety, that is a clue too. If she can say the same about me, I own my part. Mutual means both people look in the mirror. But I don't stay where I have to beg for understanding. Let's talk about the self-trust part. A lot of us stay in one-sided friendships because we don't trust ourselves to survive the loss. We don't trust that we'll be okay without them. We don't trust that we can make new connections. We don't trust that our needs are valid. So we do something dangerous. We start bargaining with ourselves. I'll stay quiet. I'll explain more. I'll shrink my feelings. I'll accept less as long as the friendship doesn't end. But here's the unmuted truth. Staying where you feel unseen is not loyalty. It's self-abandonment. Self-trust looks like this. I can grieve and still move forward. I can miss you and still choose me. I can love you and still say no. And if you needed to hear this today, here it is. You're not hard to love. You're just tired of being the one who carries it. This is where faith changed how I saw all of this. I realized something I didn't want to admit at first. God was answering my prayers, but elevation came with separation. Every time I asked God to grow me, to mature me, to expand my life, something shifted in my relationships. And the Bible talks about this. When you elevate, everyone cannot go with you. Not because they're bad people, not because you're better than them, but because not everyone is called to the next version of your life. And this part freed me. Forgiveness does not mean access. Love does not require proximity. You can forgive someone and still say, this level of closeness no longer works for me. God never asked me to abandon myself to keep the peace. And if a relationship requires you to betray your own growth, your peace, or your calling, that's not alignment. That's resistance. Here's my unmuted standard now. Healthy friendships feel safe, not heavy. They celebrate your growth. They respect your boundaries. They don't compete with your becoming. They don't need you to stay small to stay connected. And I want to say this gently. If someone can't meet you there, that doesn't make them evil. It just means that access has to change. Because healthy friendship is not pressure. It's peace with honesty. If this episode hit you, do this. 1, let yourself grieve without rewriting the story. You don't need to drag them. You don't need to explain everything. You don't need to make them the villain to validate your decision. 2, stop chasing clarity from people who benefit from confusion. If they wanted to understand you, they would. Silence is information. 3, anchor back into self-trust. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? And who can walk with that version of me? And tonight, take one small step. Mute the urge to explain. Mute the urge to chase. Mute the urge to prove you're a good friend. If you feel tempted to text them, pause. Ask yourself, am I reaching for connection or am I reaching for relief? Choose peace, then move. If you're realizing you've been shrinking in relationships, overthinking your worth, or abandoning yourself to keep the peace, I made something for you. The Unmuted Method is my 10-day reset. 5 minutes a day to rebuild self-trust so boundaries get easier and your next step gets clearer. It's $27. If you want it, DM me the word unmuted on my Instagram and I'll make sure I send it to you. And to the listener who sent me that message, I want to thank you. I hope this gave you the clarity that you really wanted and needed and not any guilt. Before we go, if this helped you in any way, send it to one woman who you know been carrying too much and dealing with something similar when it comes to friendships. And remember, be authentic in everything you do because authenticity is the new bag.